If we can move a little bit, so not getting totally cramped up.
Yeah, they haven't started on this end.
Okay. Good. Okay, perfect. All right. Good morning and good afternoon to China. I am here with a lot of the panel in Saint-Sulpice, which is a small town, a village next to Lausanne, very close to EPFL, the École Polytechnique here. Are we transmitting? No. Oh, there we go. We on? She told me that I got a text saying we started. Can you hear us?
We hear you.
Are we good? Okay. So yeah, so as I said, good morning here in Switzerland, and as I said, we are in Saint-Sulpice, a small town next to Lausanne, close to EPFL, École Polytechnique Fédérale, and we are connecting today to Shanghai, China, where we connect with our colleagues from SwissNex and also with one of our panelists also in Shanghai, and I will introduce the panel shortly. So we're extremely happy that you all joined our roundtable today, which is on art collecting in a digital age and the role of NFTs, which is an incredibly hot topic at the moment, as many of you know, and those of you who don't, be informed that it is a hot topic. So we would like to talk about this today, and I'm super pleased that we have an extremely high-level panel today of specialists from different disciplines, practitioners, who can actually talk about this in a very authoritative way, keeping in mind that, of course, any discussion about NFTs, digital art in this very rapidly moving environment is going to be just the start of a conversation, and that's our contribution here today. So I'd like to introduce the panel. I'm going to start here to my right with Arielle Dubois. She's an art agent, so somebody who helps artists to connect with collectors, museums, and galleries. And so she is a facilitator in this field and comes with many talents and knowledge to this space. And we'll talk a little bit about her experience with digital art and collecting. We have to my right immediately here, Professor Turaj Ibrahimi, who is a professor at EPFL, just up the hill from here, basically. And his specialty is professor of image processing, so somebody who really intimately knows what digital imagery is, and he's actually pioneered some of the formats in this space. So you're looking at the JPEG. I think you've been part of this development. We have here also on location, number one, No One, our artist, who will actually speak about some of his work later, and also explain a little bit what new ways of owning art could look like. And we have in Shanghai, we have Qingwen Wang. She is a curator and a creator of blockchain ecosystems, and is very much involved in art and technology and the intersection of art and technology. And she is one of those people who is a pioneer in this field and moving everybody forward in this field and creating new spaces and opportunities for interaction in between art and technology. And in fact, I would like to start with Qingwen Wang actually to start the conversation. And my first sort of starting question to her and to the whole panel, in fact, is where are we today with digital art collecting? What's happening in this space, and what's the role of NFTs? Where do you see this going? I would like you to maybe keep your comments succinct, so we have sort of an initial statement from everybody and from all the different perspectives. After that, I'll have number one, No One, speak about his art, and then we can look at how this develops from there.
I think you need to introduce as well what you're doing.
Yes.
Digital.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. See, this is I'm very much focused on everybody else, but yeah. Okay. So my own job is CEO of Arcades Digital, which is a company that creates a design company for NFTs. We create digital assets, cryptographic assets for the economy of the next millennium, of this current millennium. Next millennium, we'll see about that. But yeah, that's what we're doing, and we are very much focused on art and fine art in the space. And so this is why we're super proud and happy to convene everybody today with the help of SwissNext and our partners. Good. Okay, but now, Qingwen, please give us a view from China, your personal view, your experience, what's going on in the field.
Thank you, Chris, for this introduction, and thank you all for arranging this. And great to meet all the audience online. So, came back to Chris' question: where are we at this digital art and NFT space? I would say the category of the digital art has exists for at least 30 years. 30 to 40 years. It came with the development of computer history. It's very interesting that Switzerland and Zurich holds a very important place for me in my collecting career also. So my first digital art is actually bought in Switzerland, in Zurich, the Kate Voss Gallery. So 2019, that was the first gallery show in Kate Voss to highlighting all the computer generated art. So my first acquisition is Mario Kingsman. It's an AI generated art. The reason why I'm mentioning this is by then, 2019, NFT is not a buzzword, and all these collectors are being like very painful how we buy this digital art in the way of transaction, and also in the way to do the ownership secure. So we by then we still doing like the online transfer. We use the fiat currency, and also one big pain in the ass is the way we transfer is using the USB. So, but nowadays, how are you gonna buy a digital web? Probably you can send NFT. So you save your file on the decentralized storage like Filecoin or Arwave. Then you have this your own wallet to have access to this online token, which gives you like the only certificate and the ownership to access to an NFT. So this is a very simple example to summarize that since 2 years from 2019 to now, it's a big step for us. For all this crypto people have the currency and the infrastructure. to do the online transaction to buying the digital art with their digital currency. Okay, that's the very first step. But going forward, I was still saying the place digital art play in the whole art history is still at a very early stage. Sales like Beeple with Christie New York and like the CryptoPunk scene give all of us this we call it NFT summer. So crypto people are like to speculate on the CryptoPunks, or they consider it investment or the speculation for different type of like the punk or the different like the how do I say we call it like the profile photos. They bought it to become the Twitter profile photos for that, and we can see there's a technical chart called the Gannon curve to showcasing the maturity of the technology. NFT, the technology seems at its hype, but the development of the digital art, I would say, is still at a very early stage. It's also because there are still so many artists in the traditional world. They're not moving into the digital NFT space. They've been feel insecure, or they seems to have not very familiar with the technology. So that seems to be something that can block the creativity. Yeah. So I definitely see, all of us are living in this screen area, which every day we can't travel during the COVID, and we seem to live with our iPhones somehow. So when this medium change and the form of displaying art and showcasing art tend to be different. So I would say for the development of digital art, it's still at its very early stage, and we will see more created artists from the traditional world or from the young people. They can be just like 10 years old. But as long as they know the coding language, and as long as there are various digital products ready for them, such as like the iPad, they will be able to create. And another very important timing to look out is the next year, 2022. So next year will be the year for both Facebook and Apple to introduce their AR/VR consumer level of the AR/VR gadget, which means it will be such step forward to introduce people into the metaverse. So when we are into the metaverse, when the consumer goods become very affordable, these will bring massive creativity and massive consumption on the digital asset. I would say art is a one category of the whole digital asset. And then let's take another look back at the ecosystem players. So I still remember like 2018 is the year for me to get started with this art and tech, because I was helping out with Christie London to initiate the first art and tech summit. So that was really the moment to look back. So people like Super Real, by then they just formed up a three people of team, and now the whole space it exploded, and we see there is a more people from the tech background or from the art background to start to doing like more company creation, platform, marketplace, gallery to celebrate for the art, tech and arts. So definitely from the industry perspective, I still think it's a very early stage. And from the technology perspective, despite the fact that the Gannon curve thing is at the peak right now, consider it like CryptoPunk's market price, but the infrastructure are still in developing. For example, Ethereum is right now the public chain for everyone. To when they think of like NFT, they probably will think of to mint on Ethereum because their ecosystem tends to be more comprehensive with all the wallets, with all this marketplace and smart contract. But they're also other public chain like Polkadot, like Tezos or Flow, they're all coming after that. So from the industry like infrastructure perspective, I would say it's mature, but still there's a long way to go. And also in the longer term, you will see the multi-chain, cross-chain function really facilitate for from the chain level how like different NFT going to interact. And also we are seeing the AI NFTs coming, and also the synthetic NFTs is coming. So I definitely feel it's a very excited moment, and it's still very early moment for great people to join the industry and join with their creativities. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for this assessment. I think we got a really good broad view already from you. I take away early stage right now. We are starting to get into this space, but we're also seeing the infrastructure is maturing. You're saying that we're sort of at the verge of a new wave as big players like Facebook and Apple are going into this space and will facilitate like a broadening of this technology and a broader adoption, which will in turn and also increase demand for digital assets, right? Is that if I'm hearing you correctly?
Yeah.
And I just go maybe go to Raj, and since we're talking a little bit about where this is all coming from, maybe your vision as well, and Jim already said it's like 40. We're talking about 40 years of development here coming now to fruition in a certain way. What is your perspective on this space right now? What do you see from in your practice?
Yes, so that's a tough question you're asking. But let me, before answering to your question, say what a pleasure it is to be on this panel. I'm not an artist. I'm an engineer. I'm a researcher, and we don't get enough opportunities to talk to people who are on the other areas that are connected to technology. Technology is just a tool, and so it's a pleasure to be here in this exquisite environment and talk about it. Your first question when you started was, where are we? Let me have a very, very quick answer to that. We are in a phase of a start, as it was said, and we are experimenting. Lots of things are happening. Lots of things are happening. Many of them won't be successful. Some of them probably gives us an opportunity to go to very interesting directions. And there is nothing new about this. The history is full of examples. Since our panelists from China mentioned 30 to 40 years, I've been in this area for 30 years, so maybe a good part of that history then I have witnessed. Well, there are a lot of evolution happening in technology, and NFT is the latest one. Some people say it's a hype. I don't think it's a hype. If it were a hype, it would have disappeared the same way 3D television disappeared, the same way not many people using still Tamagotchi to play with their digital pets. But is it going to be as it is today? No, of course it's not going to, because the world is changing, and in fact we are just scratching the surface. This happened in the beginning of the internet. If you remember, for those of you who were old enough to remember, in the mid-90s, the World Wide Web started to pick up, and then people said, oh, there are a lot of things we can do. The .com was created, and it burst. 5-6 years later, it burst. And this is going to happen probably also to NFT. Lots of excitement around NFT, lots of things, and a lot of it is not going to give the expected result, but some of them will. And don't forget, some of the biggest and most successful companies today are the result of what happened when the World Wide Web was created. So there will be either a new generation of companies that are going to become those that are very, very successful around these, or the existing companies are going to really take and seize this opportunity and do what is this. Now, I don't want to be too long in this introduction, let's say, let the floor also to my colleagues, but I can tell you a couple of things that are important to keep in mind. One is that nobody knows what the future is with NFT. We all have hopes, of course. The only way really to predict the future is to make it. So you cannot only just sit and think, you have to do something about it. Having panels like this, bringing in ideas, different perspectives is extremely important. That's how things happen. Second, today, as with other technologies in the past, there is an issue always in the beginning when something is new of trust, trustworthiness. This happened also again in when the World Wide Web was created. People were thinking, oh, we can use e-commerce. In the beginning, a lot of people were resisting, saying, oh, I'm not going to give my credit card number on the internet to buy something. I don't even know who gets it, and I don't know what happens with it. Trustworthiness. Same thing is happening now in NFT. There are lots of security problems. We hear about a lot of fraud and spams and security problems. So these are all possible to resolve. They will happen because that's how things are. When problems happen, we resolve them. The second issue I want to bring is that there is also unfortunately a lot of misinformation. A lot of people, because they don't know necessarily, or there is really literally misinformation and disinformation around, they think that NFT has negative sides that it doesn't necessarily have. For instance, they issue, and especially artists and people who are thinking about future of this world and this planet are concerned about this climate change. And when you say climate change, you say, yeah, but anything that is really going the wrong direction as far as climate change trends are concerned is not good. And in fact, NFTs are mentioned because blockchain is very power hungry. That's not true. There are some, of course, right? Blockchains that are very power hungry. They are using cryptocurrencies. But the majority of the NFT blockchains, either they are becoming soon, like your Ethereum, that is the #1 actually, very, very environmentally friendly when Ethereum 2 comes, and some like Thesis, some like Cardano, they already are, and people are starting to use them for NFT. Let me stop here because I don't want to really get all the time we have. We have a short time, and we can discuss some of these aspects a little bit later.
Wonderful, George. Thank you so much for those statements. These are really, really important points that you're bringing in there, and I think already that gives us a huge step forward, also in understanding a little bit the nuances, I think, of this whole space. And I think that's what this is about, is kind of to be a little bit more nuanced about this. Ariel, maybe you can, from your perspective, as somebody who is in the art world, who's connecting artists, galleries, but also artists and sort of the next wave, so to speak, next steps. What is your experience so far? What's from a practitioner's perspective?
So just to jump from the conversation that, I mean, the discussion that we just had with Toraj, I think that first there's a misunderstanding between like NFTs and digital art, like in the art market. Like people don't understand that at the end, digital art is not necessarily NFTs. So we must like educate people on the to understand really what's the meaning and what's the how both can work together, but as well that an NFT is not necessarily linked to digital art. But me, on my point of view, I'm really like a supporter of the NFTs because I think it's a new market. It's 2021 has been like the year where like everything has changed, but in the art market as well, when you look at the main players, the galleries, they adapt. Before, I mean, it was quite unusual to see prices, for example, like on website of galleries. Now with a couple of galleries, for example, I'm going to say Koons Gallery, like in Berlin, they have like they launched their own platform of NFTs, and you see prices, but it's not that it's only with the NFTs that something changed. It's all the market, because you visit the website and it's more accessible. On all the social media, you see the prices, but well, this is just like we are going like out of the subject. But regarding NFTs, I think it brings like a new perspective to the art market, a new dynamism. Every day, I think we can all say this. We have like article in the press. We have like a new like update to follow. It's not like I'm not saying that the traditional art market is dying. This is a bit too much. For example, at Art Basel, I think there was only one gallery presenting NFTs this year, and finally it kind of worked. But when we understand a bit the feedback, it worked. But some people, traditional collectors, were a bit they don't really understand what it is. I mean, they don't understand the crypto wallet. They don't understand how it works. But after, when you see like I'm gonna say one, Almin Reich, who is like a very well established French gallerist. One of the exhibition, I mean, she has an exhibition, I think it's in Paris or London, I don't remember which site she's having the exhibition, but you can buy one of the artwork now on NFT on OpenSea. And I was like, wow, this is kind of, this is changing. It's changing. It's not really well promoted. So if you are not looking for the info, you cannot find the info. This is but it's not like mainstream. It's still niche, but it's going somewhere. And it's definitely something to watch and something to do. So that's why when I met No One, the artist, I mean, number one, and we talked a bit about all the NFTs and to introduce like people to it, we thought that it was a great idea to have this exhibition here in Saint-Sulpice. So it's a little town. We need to imagine it's like a small town in near Lausanne, and people are going to come and see like physical artwork, but they have as well, like at the end, a digital version of the physical, I mean, artwork. Now we can say physical artwork and digital artwork. This is a good fun. But what? And finally, we see that the digital artwork that is like that comes from the physical artwork. Now with the NFT, you can have the ownership of the artwork. So it's like it changes everything. I mean, the NFT at the end, you have the ownership of the physical and the digital ones. So it's like you have new way of. It's in a legal point of view, the ownership rights is like it's important. It's interesting.
What you're saying, a new ownership experience, and that's actually super interesting. Also in the context of what you are doing. Number one, I prefer to say number one because no one is always a little bit misleading, depending this. But let's have a quick look at what you are proposing and how you are actually utilizing the power, so to speak, of the digital and of NFTs in order to create a new experience in ownership. And we're switching to the other camera right now and to your microphone.
Yeah, hello everybody. Nice to be part of this panel. It is really interesting as an artist and as a painter to be part of this discovery that is NFT, that is the metaverse world. As painting is for me first a research, a development, and a testimony of our time. And mixing this with technology and what is happening, I mean, this makes sense to me. So let me please introduce you my work and why I'm part of this. So I present today an exhibition called Take a Chance, Ticket to Metaverse. It's paintings with their digital enhanced mirror, and we present that in the form of NFT. So I don't know if you can see pretty well, but what I'm working on, so my painting journey started 20 years ago, and these last 8 years, I've been developing this technique to produce and represent the melting mountains and the snow that is vanishing. So really a testimony of what we are all living now and what is this common challenge that we have, and the reason why my name for this work is no one individuality and no one globality, to find an answer to what concerns us. So painting vanishing glacier, and if you can see the technique, it really looks like Chinese ink, like really detailed and point. But the technique I use for this is spray can, so really issued from graffiti, from our time, and you will have the opportunity maybe to zooming into that to see the flows and what I try to present this moving environment we are evolving in. In parallel of that, so this is the work of the last 8 years I was saying, and in parallel of that, I was wondering this not that long ago, in fact, that 1.5 years ago, what digital version, what motion could bring to this painting. And with the different technology evolving, etc., I found a meaning proposing something digital. And so from this classical, let's say, painted version, I present now the motion of the painting. And so you can see the flow, and for me, it really represents, again, the same purpose of snow vanishing and the evolving mountains. And for me, what was interesting with that work, with this digital enhanced mirror, is that it was not making a digital for a digital, but it's really in the continuity of the painting. And what's interesting is that when you look at this motion, and then after you look back at the paintings, you see it differently, and automatically in your mind, the static paintings start to move, or at least that's what I feel, and that's what I shared with people attending in the presentation gallery. So in this NFT journey, so as all the panel was saying, that there's a difference between the painting, the digital, and also what can bring the NFT. And I'm part of this discovery, and this is what we are presenting also with Ariel, with this exhibition, is that when we propose an NFT related to each painting, and for each painting you have the painting, the motion, but you have also what we call a ticket to metaverse. It means I will produce a 3D version of the painting, and the idea of this 3D version is to use the painting as a gate to jump into a 3D landscape, in a 3D world, where you can invite people. You just can be alone in this part. You can use for gaming, and the idea is really to develop these paintings in 3D. And what we are proposing, and what allows those NFT, is that it helps to fundraise what is needed to create those 3D. And thanks to the NFT, we can propose the property of the painting, the property of the motion, and also the property of this option. And with the work we are doing with Chris, we will allow to mint differently those three parts. So everybody that acquire that can then after share this. So for me as an artist, really coming from the painting and the purpose and let's say the animality of paintings, and that's what animates me originally, this work with NFT brings something, because it will help us, the collective we are gathering around this, to create this 3D and next version of the work.
Fantastic. So I'm just kind of still blown away by this, because we are, since we spoke the last couple of times about this and how to make this happen, what really emerged is a completely new concept of how do you own art, and how do you create this ownership experience. And what number one, no one is doing is really not the ownership of an object. It's the ownership of a process. It's like, it's kind of, this is why we're calling it an initial art offering, because it is actually an investment that the buyer takes into the future development of this artwork, which is an evolving artwork. And this motion, you saw the motion, the flow that's happening from the spray, from the thoughts to the spray paint, to the animation, to this flow into the metaverse, that actually changes the dynamic completely. And the fascinating piece here is, and connecting it with NFTs, is really, we can actually map this onto an ownership experience, which is something that hasn't been really possible before. So for us, of course, this is a very exciting development, and this is why we're also working with artists like no one and people like Ariel and agencies like that. Also from the perspective, from the industry perspective, right? We are creating the digital assets of the future. This is where the value is going to be. And we're going to talk about value for a quick second here. We don't have huge amounts of time left, but I want to talk about valuation because, of course, when we talk about the art industry and also the technology, is like, how do we actually value those kinds of things, right? Where here we have the classic art market with where you buy a piece and you and that also is an investment. Art is an investment class. It's about 50 to 60 billion per year. If you, by the way, if you want an overview of this, I recommend the UBS Art Basel report that comes out annually. That gives you a really nice overview of what's going on in the market. And the 21 version just came out with some information on NFTs and digital art as well, as an aside. So this is really what's evolving here. And I think we are building this together with this group. And like what Turaj said earlier, it's like we have to intersect and do this together. So this is something that really is interdisciplinary, and people who think like that, who think across borders, outside of the box, are being kind of rewarded now, and they're coming out and building this this future. Now, let's talk about valuation a tiny bit. And I was really curious, maybe from both Ariel and Xinwen, to hear a little bit what are your experiences, because you're both really the sort of the closest probably to the where things get valuated, where you create those experiences, but also, of course, you need to have an economic model that works with that. Maybe Xinwen, if you want to maybe start with that, and Ariel, maybe you can jump in and you guys can give us a little bit of an idea. Well, how do you evaluate these things? Please go ahead.
Sorry, we were talking about like the NFT valuation.
Yes, and you know, what are the criteria? What's going on? Yeah.
For example, I can start, but like, okay. Or you start as you want. I mean, just to jump on Chris' comments. For example, on this exhibition, I found it very difficult, for example, to price a physical artwork, a digital artwork, and at the same time the ticket to the metaverse. So that's free artworks technically, and the NFT smart contracts that you need to price as well. So I think now there's not really, it's not as easy as if you it's because of the dimension of the popularity of the artist, because normally the prices are defined like this on the typical traditional art market, but like now the NFT, I think it's more like it's speculation kind of. It goes back to the subject we had once with Turaj. I mean, yes, but so finally, I think difficult to answer, and I think it's experience that will tell.
Yeah. So, what's your view?
So from my perspective, I would say speculation is not a bad thing. You need people to pay attention and also join the market. So, and also speculation is also a demand for financial market, and there are a group of people there, which is the solid demand. I would say NFT, from my perspective, it's a technology. The technology to secure online the data, including like the financial data. All the internet objects can be NFT. That means we have the internet currency as the fungible token, and the non-fungible token are like all other digital assets. So I would say we can separate that into first, what's the valuation system for the crypto world driven NFT art? And the second is what's the valuation system for like the digital art or the digital artists who use NFT as a tool to securitize their to secure their digital ownership. So I would say in the first category, if you want to speculate or buy or invest a crypto project NFT collection, definitely check their Twitter, check their community number, community followers, and check what's the logic and what's the logic behind this collection, and what's the total amount of the collection. that has a hard cap. And these are very important. And also, who is the project leader, and which community is in, which ecosystem. So these are like the basic dimension, I would say, for the crypto community in general. And also for the digital artists, I would say just like what art market requires for the artists. First, it's always need to be a good art. It's of course in the digital art, we were thinking more about like what's also the version. So like the photos, there are also prints. So the more version it has, the price might be diluted. And also we need to check out the artist's profile and what's his thoughts when creating these collections. And also what's the collaboration and things like this. So I would say first is like the crypto world dominated rules. The second is more like the artwork thesis when you checking out these artists and their work. Yeah.
Right. Okay, very interesting. And I think it's helpful to have those different categories a little bit. What we're seeing a lot of times is also with some of the classic categories for evaluating art actually still apply. They just need to be transposed in a certain way to the digital world. But then there's this whole other component of the market, which is a non-traditional market, which is an emerging market. And honestly, we also see ourselves when we make digital assets out of NFTs, we're actually seeing or using NFTs as the sort of the contract vehicle for giving ownership rights or licenses. They're not easy to place necessarily, right? So we actually have to, for investing, we sometimes have to wrap those into bankable assets and transport it like this. So this is a different world that's emerging, and like you said, I think the price discovery is still in process here, and I think that's what we're also seeing when you talk about bubble and burst cycles. We're kind of seeing those oscillations of the market trying to find its balance, of course.
If I can just add to what was said, which I fully agree with. First of all, we cannot have an economic ecosystem if we don't have somehow the notion of right. We need a mechanism to give right to access, to right to consume, to right to own, or to right to sell something, right? Now there are many ways this has happened in the physical world, right? Since civilization exists, and in the last let's say 50, 60 years, when the digital age has really kicked in, there has been also ways to do it. And NFT is just bringing a new dimension to that. It's actually making it far more interesting because it's not going to be static, right? Today, you buy a piece of art, whether it's digital or physical, doesn't matter. Somebody gives you a piece of paper that authenticates the fact that this is really what it is supposed to be, and it has been painted by no one, and not me, who pretend to be no one, and that I am me, the right holder, and whatever the right is, right? NFT takes it one step farther because you could make smart contracts with it. You could put all sorts of conditions associated with it. You could say you cannot sell it to be used in advertisement for I don't know, smoking and tobacco industry, but you could use it for some other things. You could give for free for some causes access, but with some other causes not, and all sorts of things like that. So that is one aspect of it. What is the notion of ownership? And that's what NFT means.
Well,
the second thing that is also very important, I think, the valuation. You just said valuation.
Right.
Yeah. What's the value of the art? I'm not an artist, but I have a way to explain it to you. My own experience. Let's take an example of Freddie Mercury, right? There are people who would pay hundreds of thousands, if not millions, for a T-shirt of Freddie Mercury, right? Yeah. I'm sure if we make an auction and we have that Freddie Mercury T-shirt, it will happen.
Yeah.
And if it has not been washed, I'm sure it will be even higher value. So I'm of course I like his music, but I'm not really a fan of having his t-shirt because I don't know what to do with it, except if I want to sell it and make money. So I'm not going to pay for it, right? And as Albert Einstein said once, if you judge the ability of a fish by how well it climbs a tree, well, it has no ability. But if it was for swimming, it would have been a lot of value. Same with the piece of art. You cannot just say the t-shirt of Freddie Mercury, well, to me, it has no cost, no value, but to somebody, it has it. Again, the fact that it is digital, the fact that we have the NFT opens the door to really find that rare people who might be able to give it value and how much value, right? Through auctions, etc. it will give. It's again, nothing new. The auctions existed before. It's not that it is reinvented, but this is a way where you have really additional dimension, additional, much more effective way to finding the people, and these people find also that these kind of collectibles and piece of arts, etc. exist.
Absolutely. And I think, yes, there is, we have a question as well from the audience, which I'm going to, it says no open questions, it disappeared. But I think I saw the question before. It was about what you already kind of answered before about the environmental impact, I believe it was. Oh, here's more. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that was. I think that has been answered. I'll just go into the questions in a bit towards the end. But I wanted to just play off of what you just said about ownership and also the sort of the contractual piece here. And I just want to put also something out here that's kind of important also in the Swiss context, since also this is SwissNext and we're part of the Crypto Valley Association here in Switzerland, is that Switzerland actually legally has created a framework that accepts those kinds of contractual arrangements that NFTs can give and accepts this fully as legally sound and valid. So this has been introduced this year. It's a new what we call a DLT, distributed ledger legislation, that actually does that. So you can actually go to court with an NFT, so to speak, that gives you rights to certain things, to a license or to an ownership right, and you can enforce that, which is, I think, a pretty unique thing. There are very few jurisdictions in the world where you can do similar things, but I think Switzerland has taken a leadership role here. I just wanted to point that out, and this is part of the reason I think also why there are so many companies really now emerging in this space or also in other spaces. So we have a forward-looking legislative agenda here, which I think makes it so much more easy also to kind of implement the kinds of things that we're trying to do. Now, I just want to come back maybe to no one's view also on this sort of this ownership experience that gives you certain rights. I mean, this is kind of what's happening here, right? You are getting rights to something that's happening in the future, and you are committing to making this. So this is a classic contractual relationship that kind of establishes little islands in the sea of uncertainty, so to speak, in the future. And we can now do these kinds of things digitally with the help of NFTs. So just coming back to the question about very quickly about there was a question about just how do you justify NFTs again in terms of the environmental impact, and Professor Ibrahimi Turaj has already mentioned this. Okay, we have actually, and I just repeat it here because it's like the #1 thing that kind of keeps coming back, is that we do have most of the chains that actually work with this are actually environmentally friendly. Ethereum, the big one that everybody keeps using or is now maybe also evolving to other chains like Polkadot, for instance, an important one. I think they are moving to a system, what we call proof of stake, where actually it is not compute intensive anymore. And so we're actually very much environmentally friendly. And in addition to that, and I'm just going to say this because it's really important, a lot of those NFTs are actually empowering a green progress, because they cannot just encode art, but also ownership in other things like carbon reduction, like green projects, etc., and enable those across the board. And we're doing actually some of those projects. So this is actually something that will bring us forward rather than backwards. Okay, now I just want to maybe do another quick look at the questions here, and my Mandarin bad, so I can't really read this properly. Can you translate?
Okay, so there's one. What is your thoughts on on-chain generative art? Do you think it will be a new art form?
I think that's a really good question, and I refer that to Xinwen, please. Is that the question? I'm sure you can say something about this.
So I heard something about on-chain generative art. So what's the full question? I couldn't hear it clearly.
The question is, is it something that you think is going to happen? Is it a new art form? And is it a thing, I guess, question.
So the generative art is definitely something came with the computer age, and it's generated by artificial intelligence and the coding. And there's a bunch of new group of people, like the developers. They're a big fan of that. So one use case you can check, there's a platform called Art Block. So it's been super popular with the generative art. But on the second thing, on the on-chain generative art, if you mean the generative art is stored through the on-chain, then it means it has very limited storage, and the creation itself tends to be like fairly plain, because there's each block, they cannot store large file, so that file needs to be linked to like the off-chain storage, like to the IPFS. So the answer is yes. I definitely see generative art is a new trend, and also it's attract new buyers like the developers. But the on-chain generative art it holds the limitation for on-chain storage.
Okay, very interesting. So actually there are some constraints that are being put by the actual medium, so to speak. And I think that's another question I wanted to also ask to no one, but maybe also one for you. Yeah, there's one question from I think Geraldine, who asked, what is the role of curators in this emerging space, and how do you see yourself there as an art agent in this space?
Yeah, I think the curator word, we can like extend it to as well artist agents or galleries or art dealers. And I think when you answered no, I always believe art is art. Bring good art to the market is what curators do. This I agree, but I think as well we need actually as well third parties like art dealers and curator to bring that point of view, because at the end, I think NFT is great for artists as well because they don't need intermediaries anymore with this. But with curators and this third party, you have as well a more like it's curatorial. The approach is more it's more, yeah, you can more like visible, how you say, it's more like you can readable, read, yeah, readable, it's more, it makes more sense, kind of. True. It's curated. So
no, you help translate a bit of frame or contextualize a little bit. I got two more small topics because we're kind of like going towards the end of our hour that we have. And one is going to be about the question, since it's coming from the on-chain art a little bit. So NFT, we're speaking about it as a medium of transport, as a contractual medium, so to speak, but can it also be an artistic tool, right? Can it be a tool for artists in a certain way to actually use an NFT not as a sales channel, so to speak, but also as something that you incorporate into your art as a tool, like a paintbrush? And I'll let you talk to this. But I have one also question for you, if you can start thinking about it, is the whole question of trust, because you mentioned that in the beginning. I think that's one of your specialties as well, to think about how to create trust in this context. So maybe at the end, a quick statement to wrap this sort of into a trust blanket, because I think that's a really important piece as well, also in context of value, valuation, persistence, permanence of all of these things. And there's a couple of things connected to that, but NFTs as a tool. What do you think?
That's maybe two words about what as artists and maybe I speak for many artists, what we hope to find in the NFT. There are 3 points, 3 major points. The first one is to defend the right and the creation of the artist through its property, so the recognition of the existence and the ownership of it, but also what was not possible or what was not applied those 50 last years is the right of following, meaning that along each transaction there is a part that is given back to the artist. And there is a hope that in NFT, with the traceability, etc., they will have a support to the artist. The second point that we really expect in the NFT is that it will help collaboration between artists through those tokens. Should it be through fundraising and allowing the production of pieces, or should it be just a way to collaborate and to save each participation of each artist in a collective work? So that's the hope in the NFT. Then NFT as a tool itself to create. There's always the part of the idea itself that is interesting in art. So sharing, reselling, being part of having the ticket to a collectivity, to a community. So that's interesting. But always, and this is I think in the history of art, always the technology and the technique must serve a purpose and must serve an idea and a will to share and immerse the spectators in the work. So yeah, so just to answer that, it could be something that would help, but it's not. It should not, as a technique, never be in it and itself the purpose, but I mean to express and share the ideas.
Right. So as a tool and not the end of it, right? It's a technology. It's something that is supposed to serve a purpose, not be the purpose itself somehow. And so I think that's a really important point as well when we talk about this in a broader cultural context as well. We have some really cool examples also of how NFTs can be part of the artwork itself. And I think that's like a whole different or whole additional edition, perhaps, and I'm already tempted to do another one of this kind of conversation. But Raj, let's have a talk about trust in this whole space, because ultimately this is between partners and this is between people and maybe more actors even than we used to have in this space. So what's your take?
So Christopher, you started with a tough question. You're ending also with a tough question.
Getting all the tough questions.
Yes. Trust is part of something that I would like to call trustworthiness. Trust is most of the time very technology centric. Trustworthiness is not. Trustworthiness, you could have very secure technologies, but you don't have the social acceptance of it. You don't have the legal framework for it, or you don't have some other dimensions than the technological soundness of the trust. We are, our biggest challenge, in fact, today in NFT is lack of trustworthiness. Some of it is because of misinformation. We heard people think that there are some environmental impact. It's not really completely true. It will work. If it were the case, it's not going to be the case. We heard that some people say, "Hey, what is this NFT?" No, I'm a traditional art collector, and I want to have a painting that is really like a painting. I don't want to have. Nobody is saying NFT is going to make a robot to paint for you that painting, nor we're going to say become a robot and look at it, at the painting. NFT is the same way that maybe 300 years ago, if you wanted to buy a piece of art, you would go with a bag of gold coins. Well, at some point it became paper bills, and at some point you just make a credit card purchase or a bank transfer. That's what NFT is really. NFT can perfectly be used in that environment. So there is a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding there, and the educational dimension that is extremely important in that. So that's part of the trustworthiness. I would say today, I think that the technology, in order to bring a secure and trust framework into NFTs, is within reach. Of course, like anything, you start with technologies, there are some flaws, but these are implementation flaws that can be used for online banking, etc. Can be perfectly tailored and used in the context of NFTs. So I don't think that this is really the biggest problem. The biggest problem is social acceptance and the legal dimension. You mentioned, that's very true, that some countries, Switzerland is one of them, have started to create legislations that allow not only NFTs, but cryptocurrency and blockchain economy, blockchain-centered economy to become really viable from legal point of view. These are great news, but this is not the whole world, right? So if you buy, and this is the problem today, if you buy today a piece of art from a gallery and they give you the piece of art, but also the certificate that comes with it, if you go to China, well, still you are the owner. But it's not sure yet if your certificate is an NFT on a blockchain. Another country that doesn't have yet the legislation will really consider that you are the owner of whatever right that this NFT is conveyed to. So these are the problems. These are open problems. I think that these are the more challenging problems. Yeah. Interestingly, I think, and it's not, I hope it's not because I know the technology better, I think that the technological side of the trust in blockchain is easier to resolve than these others. Yeah. These others I mentioned that I put under umbrella of trustworthiness, as opposed to trust.
I mean, I think that's a super interesting part, and I think one thing you should also know about Ariel, she's also a lawyer, and I think that's a very interesting connection here. I mean, yes, we mentioned the Swiss context, the Swiss legal context, but is it something that really translates into international trade law? There is a model law at I think UNCITRAL that actually talks about these kinds of things and how this is transferable. But is it implemented? Is it practiced at this point? No, it isn't. And so these are the challenges I think we're up against in terms of that. So we covered a huge amount of material in terms of the different topics, and you can see, I think, how multidimensional this really is. And I think the goal, I think the goal was of this conversation to be more nuanced and to say, like, there isn't just like I like NFTs or I don't like NFTs, and I think hopefully everyone can agree that this is, there are more dimensions to this. And I think the encouragement I think that we all want to give you is to think more and to be to look at those different dimensions. And hopefully we would also like to invite everyone to go try it out. It's not a theoretical thing. Go open a MetaMask account, try things, and go have a look. We are also going to actually drop, and that's how we call it in the industry, drop NFTs of no one's work. In the next few days, we're actually going to have an event on Saturday where we, to initialize this, and we'll inform you in the proper channels where you can also have a look and see if you would like to get one of those tickets that goes from a physical piece of art to an animation to a space in a future metaverse where you're going to meet the other folks who have purchased this ticket, and you will create something together in 2 or 3 years from now. So to kind of go on this journey with no one, and see what's happening. So we're actually bringing this out here from Arcades Digital, but I would like to say it's not about us. It's about everybody coming together and creating something together. In this context, I would like to again thank everyone in the audience, first of all, for all the questions. I see that we already answered some of those online by typing. We got some here answered directly, but I also like to thank specifically Swiss Next Shanghai. I want to thank the Crypto Valley Association also for multiplying and supporting this. And go check out our website there. And then, of course, our panelists, starting with our guest in Shanghai, Xinwen Wang, who's been a really amazing interlocutor, and I think we will have more conversations with her as well, hopefully. Ariel here, based in Geneva, at the Art Agency. I think important to know as well, if you have questions, if you are an artist, you want to connect with her, please do, and get in touch. We'll connect you. Taraj here from EPFL, just up the hill. Amazing insight from him as well. Somebody who really knows his stuff from experience, and of course, number one here in Saint-Sulpice. So everybody who's local and who wants to come in, I think is there an open tonight? Come to Saint-Sulpice, Espace 52, which is right in the town center. Can't miss it. So it's worth having a look and talk to us here as well. So
thank you, Chris, as well, and Laura as well from the Arcade team, for this amazing job and for having this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So hopefully we have another conversation about this. But we're signing off now, and we'll hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Are we offline?